Welcome to Demystifying Data. I'm so glad to have you. I cannot say that enough. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I'd like to start with introductions. My name is Omolola Eze-Ifoma. My name is Omolola Eze-Ifoma, and I'm a mom. I'm a mom of two teen boys, and I started my IT training as a teenager. I think that is very important because I believe in starting early anything in life. And because of that, we have trainings even for teenagers, right? So I started my IT training as a teenager. I currently have 27 years experience as a student and as a professional. I have spent the last 16 years as a data professional in the telecommunications sector. I started my data journey as a data analyst. And after a number of years living a very, very frustrated life, I bought the gospel of data management. So today I'm a data management uh, evangelist. Yes, that's what I call myself. I'm a data management evangelist. I believe in data management because I believe it makes life easy for every other data professional, right? So I'm a data professional. I have data and analysis skills, different skills across the board. I also am a certified Google mentor. I am I also run a cake shop. I have skills in baking gotten from family, and growing up as the daughter of a caterer, you have to get some skills too. So I have these skills and I have a cake shop, and that also helps me to use my data analysis skills around the SME space also. And I also love to teach anything I know, and that's part of the reason why I am here to demystify data for you. And I'm sure a lot of us have different experiences with data and have gotten different, views of data, especially with the buzz of data. I wonder what your perception of data is. If you want to share, you can put it in the chat what your perception of data is. Do you see it as difficult? Do you see it as complex? Do you see it as confusing? I'd like to know what you think in the chat. Okay, so I'll go forward. I don't want to waste your time today, and I want to let you know a lot of things. So welcome to Demystifying Data. And let me say that data is everyone's business. Data is everyone's business. Everybody is involved in data. Yes, I like to see what is in there. So data is everyone's business, and we have attendance sheet in the chat. Please, I'd like you to fill the attendance sheet, as we'd like to also collect data and know who came and who didn't, and generally have a feel of who came. All right, thank you so much. So I like to say that data is everyone's business. Everyone has a part to play in data. Everyone has data. As long as you have a system or you belong to an organization, or even as a person, you have data. As a person, you would have customers. You'd have people you relate with that make inquiries from you. As a person, as a worker in an organization, your customers may not be external. They could be internal or external customers. You have customers. You have people that make inquiries from you. You have people that get things from you. It could be purchases. It could be requests for services, right? And you get feedback as a person who interfaces with customers. You also are probably a staff in an organization. You have staff within your organization, or you are a staff in an organization. And what would the staff do in an organization? Do procurement, produce, administration, vendor, procurement, administrations, execute the processes within the organization. All of these things produce data within an organization and create, process data in the process of executing all of these things. You have vendors within an organization, you have partners, you have suppliers, you have services, you do collaboration. You probably exist within, some organizations will exist within different states and different geographical locations. You know, all of these things, the people, the processes that exist within an organization is data. They all produce data. Hence, everyone's business is data. Data is everyone's business, is your business. And we all need to be interested in data because we are all participants. We are either actors or consumers. We're all a part of the data process. And so, looking at it from this perspective, it's important that we establish something, that data is a part of our lives. Data is what everything that happens within our space produces some form of data. Everything that happens within our space produces some form of data. Today, you are currently producing data. Right on this call, you are generating some form of data. When you went to your Instagram handle this morning to check something, you started creating some footprints, some data footprints. Okay, so data is everybody's business. It's your business, it's my business. And so we need to know something about data. We can't afford to be ignorant about data because it has come to stay and it's a part of our lives, right? So let's first establish this. Data is everybody's business. You're most likely handling data one way or the other right now. You are currently handling data one way or the other right now, okay? So data is everybody's business. Let's move on. And let's talk about how did we get here? Where did the whole concept of data come from? Now, like I said, it's everybody's business. We've been dealing with data before we came on this call today, and data has always existed. From the beginning of creation, there's always been some form of data existing. From the beginning of creation, there's always been some form of data existing. It could be analog form. Of course, it was analog before we got to this digital world that we are in right now, right? So data existed. It was in notebooks. We wrote things down in notebooks. Most of our parents, once upon a time, I saw a booklet that showed information about my grandfather's cocoa sales records. So my grandfather was keeping records how many years ago? Maybe 100 years ago. My grandfather, or more than 100 years ago, my grandfather was keeping records. So yeah, these things have been since that long and even before. Data was always existed, and it was in digital form. But what exactly has happened over time? Digitalization of things has led to exponential growth of data volumes. And so we have more data than ever before in our lives. When COVID-19 happened, wow, there was a double boom. For me, I said then that, wow, we now have a new world because of COVID-19, because the volume of data increased. Small business owners started trying to put their businesses online, and we did more business through WhatsApp, Instagram, and all kinds of online outlets, because we couldn't move around. We needed to embrace the virtual world and the e-world. We quickly had to embrace it. We didn't even have time to make the decision of if we wanted to or not. For a long time, we had physical meetings in my organization where I worked at that time. But the minute we had COVID-19, everybody started looking for how to get online and become digital. And what did that do? That created with an exponential geometric increase, yes, a geometric increase in the volumes of data that organizations had to deal with. And not just the volume, but the veracity of data, the uniqueness and even the variety of data that businesses had to deal with. Like a business who did not have to track staff online now had to say, where is my staff online? Had to say, oh, how do I know that my staff is doing what my staff needs to do? And needed data footprints to know what was happening with their staff. Some had to immediately think about, oh, how do we create virtual sessions that we could know what our staff is doing and all of that, So technology now, so data increased, we have huge volume, and we now have technology. We have technology. As data volume started growing and things started changing, we moved from having data in big chips to having tiny chips containing huge volume of records, and we had technology to process data. Questions of man the questions businesses had suddenly found answers. The questions business has always had suddenly found answers, and the early adopters got huge success stories, and the success stories created a buzz, and more organizations started saying, we need to have data. We need to have data. In recent times, especially in Nigeria, we have seen increased digitalization happen within our government, within the government organizations. And so we find that government organizations are asking more questions to businesses and saying, where's the record of, you have banking records, we have your banking records, we know what you've done, we're expecting more tax, right? And even regulatory organizations, they're asking the banks more questions, asking the telecommunication sectors more questions, insurance. And there's so much questions all over the place right now because there has been a boom. There's technology to harness the data. With the big data technology, we can harness volumes, millions of data sets within a few seconds. So, well, data has always been. Now, data has grown in huge volumes, and data will always be. It's not going anywhere. We're going to have more automations coming in. We're going to have more digitalization. And what is the effect of that? We're going to have, and the effect of that will be that we're going to have more and more need to have data controlled. We have more need to really know what's happening and change the way we do things today. And so data has come to stay. It's always been with us. It is with us now, and we all need to know how to work around data going forward. So I like to mention that we all create data. We all create data. We all are part of this ecosystem that creates data today. We all create data, and we're all part of the ecosystem that creates data today. When we go to the banks, we go to banks physically or virtually, we are carrying out one transaction or the other, we are creating data footprints. When we make phone calls, use the internet, send SMS, do our VAS services, we're creating some form of data. Every time you make a call, the network takes note of the fact that your phone number is, the network identifies you as your phone number, right? And records your phone number and records your phone number and does all of that. And because of that, the network can tell what you did on the network. Because of that, regulatory can ask questions about what you're doing on the network, right? And so we're all contributing to the ecosystem, right? Please, I want to have your feedback in the chat. I like to know that we're engaging and things are getting clearer as I continue to speak, right? So we all create data. We're all part of the ecosystem. When we use social media, we're creating some form of data. Well, that is why you can go to Instagram, and a few minutes after being on Instagram, somebody is talking to you about the same thing that you just saw on Instagram, on Facebook, because everything is linked and your footprints are being followed, right? And when you're online also, on online meetings, just like we're in a meeting now, there's record that you joined this meeting. There's record that you are on this meeting right now. And this is all part of information used to improve things and track things and even know what is happening. Our hospital visits, when we go to the hospitals, most hospitals are getting digitalized these days. Diagnosis has been sent through emails and tracked digitally. Many years ago, when I go to the hospital, I have to go back to get my sleep and all of that. I've been to the hospital today, to a lab today, actually. And I'm being told, you're going to get an email very soon with your lab results. What does that tell me? I have created some form of data footprint at the lab. The lab has information about me, and the lab is going to send me an email, and there will be records that there has been a conversation between myself and the lab, even through my email. So somehow we are creating strings of information across different spheres of the society, and all of this information can actually be harnessed to even describe people, to track things, for security reasons and so many things. And so when we talk about data, it's important to know that I create data. I do activities that contribute to the data ecosystem around me. All right. It's very important that we're able to identify that and know that yeah, what we're doing is creating something. Okay. So this is very, very important. It's very, very important that we understand this. So I don't know. I want to get feedback. I like to get feedback when I speak. So I'd like to know what you've gotten so far. Please, in the chat, drop a statement. Let me know that we are together. You're getting this conversation and it's useful to you. It's giving you some more insights and all. Please, I'd like to hear from you. So we all create data. We're all part of the ecosystem that is creating data. So when you hear data analysis, it's not talking about something that is perfect. It's talking about your activities. It's talking about the activities that happen around you. And, it's giving you, it can give you insight, can do so much for you. And that's what we want to understand here. We want to understand what exactly, when we say data, what exactly are we saying? Thank you so much for the feedback. Thank you so much. All right. So what is data? Data, I say, is the truth. Data is the truth about what is happening within your organization. For you as a business owner, the truth about what happens in your business is what data says. It's the truth about what happens in your business. It is what lets you know, oh, this has happened, and it gives you the capacity to improve things. All right? That is data. Data is truth. It tells you what is happening. Whenever you, I have a business, for example, like I said earlier, and whenever I want to know what happens, I don't go by what people say. I just say, let me see what we have in our records. Just going through our records, I determine what happens. And if what is in the record is wrong, is either somebody is doing something wrong, right? Somebody is doing something wrong, or something is just wrong, right? Or the truth. The data there relates with what I'm expecting, and so it's fine. So data is the truth. Data is supposed to be a representation of the exact thing that happened. Now you join this meeting, let's say you join this meeting at 4 p.m. The data about this meeting should record that you are here at 4 p.m. If the data about this meeting does not register you as being here at 4 p.m., it's not the truth. Okay? And so data is supposed to be the representation of the truth. And that is what we ensure as data professionals. Also, data is a vehicle. I want to think about data like a car, right? Now, a car, almost everybody drives a car. If you know how to drive a car, you want to drive a car, you want to move from one point to the other. Now, the question is this: is everybody a mechanic? No. But we drive cars. Why? Because it's a form of technology that helps us to solve our transportation problem, right? And that is what data is. Data is a vehicle that helps businesses achieve their goals. It helps businesses get the insights, the business owners get the insight they need. It helps you as a professional know what exactly is happening with the processes that you are responsible for. Okay, so data is like a vehicle. And so when you think about data, don't think about data like, do I need to be a mechanic? No, you don't need to be a mechanic. You just have to have basic working knowledge of data, right? Enough data to be able to manage your life, enough data to manage your business, your job. Okay, so data is a vehicle to getting things done, to get you to the destination you want to go to. Data is business. Data is business. Like I said earlier, when I look at the records of my business, I want to get the impression of what really happened. Okay, so someone said, I don't really get that data as a vehicle. So I said, data is a means of getting to where you want to go to, just like a car is a means of getting to where you want to go to. All right, so that's what I mean. Okay. And data is business. It is business. It is what represents what's going on in your business. It's what helps you to drive your business. It's what helps you to improve your operations plan, achieve your business goals. Okay, so data is business. So when we are not in control of the data of our business, it's like not being in control of your business. Many years ago, I used to have a lady in my life, and she would tell me, Lola, it's about the numbers. You need to know the numbers of your business. And what is numbers? It's data. Okay? Yeah. And data is everyone's business. As long as you're part of an organization, right? As long as you are part of an organization, it's your business. You should be interested in what is going on in your organization. Okay, so as far as you're part of an organization, data is the facts. I mean, data is your business. Okay, data is your business, because when you're at that desk entering the numbers, you know that you're doing business. You're doing business and you are contributing to what happens in the business. So I saw someone say in the chat that data is not true, is not the truth except it is correct. Very true, right? Data is not true except it's correct. I think I mentioned that earlier, that once it is in its good quality, it is the truth. And when it is not in the good quality, it doesn't tell exactly what's happening in the organization. But I believe that you should first, the first perception of data is that it should be true, right? It should be true. It should represent exactly what happens in your organization, right? So data is the vehicle to get into where you want to get to as a business, and even as a person, right? As a professional, you can become data-driven in the way you do your work, and that makes you different. That makes you stand out as a professional, right? So let's move on. I like to say write a lot. So data can exist in different forms. Sometimes it is structured, sometimes it's unstructured. You could get, for example, sometimes we get information in strings, and the data scientists come in and help us to get things out of strings of information that are in certain unstructured format. So sometimes it is unstructured and sometimes it is structured. And when it is structured, what do we have? You will have finite data types, representing different things. For example, when you want to know date of birth, for example, in a school, the proprietor wants to check the age of a student, right? The date of birth is that data item that helps you to know the type of data that you want to engage with, your date of transactions, date of birth, all of these things tell you about the transaction, when something happened, right? Then you could also have the number of people, whole numbers. Sometimes data types, you have whole numbers as data types, showing finite number, count of people, count of animals, things in finite states. Then you have decimals, sometimes you have money values, you have averages, temperatures, these are different ways that you should see data. So when you see a number, you know that you are looking at data. When you see a count, whole numbers, you know that this is some form of data. And the question is, what is this speaking to? What is this telling me? Now that's the question. What is this telling me? Like I said earlier, all of us, we engage data one way or the other. But the question is, are we aware that what we're looking at in front of us is data? Are we aware that what we are looking at in front of us is not just data, but it is also giving some information? It's giving some information, telling you something. So your email, for example, your email is also a form of string, when you have mixtures of alphabets and special characters, like your @ sign in your email, like at Gmail and things like that. Now, you know that is a string. Is a string. That's what we call it, IT terms. But I promise that this is going to be technical jargon free. Yeah. So emails. So for example, in this in the registration for this webinar, somebody put in an email and she sent me a message and said, Lola, I sent you my email. I registered, but I'm not getting emails. And I said, there's only one reason why you won't get emails, and that's because your email is probably wrong. And I said, share me your email. I checked and I found out that our email was wrong, right? And that told me that, yeah, so I showed her an email, which she sent to me. And that's why I believe that data is truth. What you have is the fact that was what I have is the fact that I received from her. She thought she sent the right email, but she didn't send the right email. Okay, so when we look at data from representation of reality, what I had was wrong data. But like string information, they are difficult to tell whether they are right or wrong. But we're not in that class to talk about technicalities of determining quality and all of that. But that's just for you to know that, yeah, you can have strings, you can have boolean. That is, there are some certain things that happen, especially in scientific things. You have the values being true or false and things like that. Then you can also have files. Like today, registration for schools, I'm trying to register for one of my children into school, and the registration form is saying upload the images of birth certificate, images of results, images of things, you know, all of that is pointing to files, and it's being captured as some form of data. All of that is being captured as some form of data. Okay, so let's go on. This is to let you know. So I expect by now that when you see reports and things in the office, immediately you're thinking data. You're already thinking data. When you think about things that you're doing, excuse me, I think there's somebody doing something funny here. Tito B, I can see. Please, can you? Yes. So can you stop that? Thank you very much. All right. So data flow. So I want to talk about the way data flows within an organization. Thank you so much for the feedbacks. We'll get to there. All right, so data flow within an organization. Every organization has flow of data. And I want to just use this simple analogy, this simple view, which is the input, process, and output view. Anything can be looked at from the input, process, and output view, all right? You can look at everything from the input, process, and output view. And if a customer, for example, comes to your business or to the bank or wherever what you call a business is, if a customer comes in, the customer is going to make an input, a request for service. That is an input because your process doesn't start until you get that input, right? And when you get that input, that input helps you. Please, can we stop our videos? It's distracting. Thank you very much. All right, so when you get that input, that is data in itself. The request for service in itself is some form of data. You would need some attributes to describe what that is. Oh, my name is X. I want this service. I want this particular product. I want 10 of this and all of that. That is data in its raw state. Yes, and that is data in its raw state. When you get that, what's the next thing that happens? You take that. I'm talking about this from a business flow and relating it to what data flow is like. Okay, so when you get that input, the next thing is to send that to the next person on the process, in your process flow, to say, I need this to be executed for that customer. Now, then another set of process starts. That process itself can have its own input, output, and all of that too. But making it simple, that customer's request, you process it, that also creates another set of data. So if you want to know what happened in that process, you say, oh, the data collected at the time of this process. You want to know that data collected at the time of the process. Then the results. The result is the good or service that you want to supply. At every of these points, there's a data footprint. So when you see, when you say, oh, I want to be a data analyst, or you want to help an organization answer questions that can happen within any of these process flows, you want to help the organization get insight. So this is data. It's our everyday life. It's what we do every day. It's what we see every day. It's how we do things every day. We are taking data as inputs, even in our own execution of different processes. And like I said earlier, don't look at customers as external customers only. As a professional working in an organization, you have customers, and your customers are your internal customers. So customers can be external or internal. Okay, so I remember some months back before I resigned, I used to be responsible for MIS in my organization. And my customers were people within the organization that wanted one report or the other. So every time I get an email from them, it's the input for me to know that I have received a request. And how do I track those things? I enforce people to go and fill a form so that I can use that as my own data entry to track what is going on. Okay, so this is what we do every day. We see in our processes, and I like to know that I'm still communicating and I've not started sounding very technical because I want to keep my promise. All right. So we have flows within our organization. That's just basically explaining that. And what's the cycle? Now, the data cycle is not the same everywhere. So MIS is Management Information Systems. So data cycle is not the same everywhere. I've seen different forms of data cycles, but I just want to use this to explain what I mean when I say data cycle. In every system, you create data. Now, like somebody said earlier, in its raw form, it is data. And the interesting thing is that even it's kind of difficult. I don't want to sound too technical and start sounding philosophical, but it's kind of difficult to tell even what is the rawest form of data sometimes, because what you call input is the output of a process somewhere else. So for example, somebody comes and says, oh, I want to buy a cake, right? That person that comes in and says, I want to buy a cake, has processed some information somewhere to decide to make that decision. So what is coming as an input to me is actually the outcome of some processes that may have happened outside. So yeah, so the first thing in any process that we want to track and data cycle we want to track is, well, we create data. So what's the first action that will create data? So let's make an example of we going on YouTube. Everybody goes to YouTube, I believe. Now, you go on YouTube to watch a movie or something, right? Now, you go on YouTube to watch a movie. Now, when you click that button, first, your search. I like to search for movies, right? Everybody, I think most people search. So when you go online and search, your search is already creating some form of data stream, like telling Google that this person has come to search for things of this nature. And that is tracked. Now, when you eventually click on something to watch, you have created a string saying that at X time, this person clicked on this particular kind of movie, and the genre of that movie or something is tracked, right? And the person, which is you, because you probably logged on, and so you didn't log in as a guest, you logged in as yourself, so it can be attached to you. So that tracks that, oh, that creates a string of information, data, a string of data. That string of data will be processed by Google. By Google, YouTube. And next time you come online and analyze, stored, process, stored, then analyzed. Then the next time you come online, it is used to suggest to you more movies to watch, right? Then after a while, you've not watched anything that looks like that. YouTube will decide, oh, there's no need keeping this information anymore. This person doesn't seem to have done something like this. We can't keep this information forever, and just moves it aside and decides it's time to archive it. Then decides we've archived it for so long. Why are we still keeping it? It's time to destroy it, right? So I gave an analogy earlier. I said that if anybody kept every information since the beginning of their lives, then at some point you will be under that heap of information, information or data, whatever you want to call it. You'll be under the heap of everything by now. Why? Because it's just unnecessary after a while to keep that same information. So that's the basic flow of data in any environment, right? I hope I've not started sounding technical, and I hope that we're getting the gist of data and what it is. So what will data do for your organization? Because it's just not enough to know all of these things. What will it do for you in your organization? I think I've been mentioning all along. It will give you visibility. It will give you visibility. It will help you know what's going on in your organization. I own a very tiny business, and sometimes I have a headache just thinking about what's going on. As I just sit down and say, what's going on here? I need to know what's going on here. What will data do for your organization? What will being data-driven do for your organization? What will organizing and investing in data do for your organization? It will give you visibility. It will give you control. It will give you control. Yes, you can put a CCTV everywhere, but if you are not tracking what is going on, you will not have control. But when your staff know that there's a weekly report that shows what is happening, you would have control. You would have better control, right? It helps you to meet regulatory requirements, avoid fines or excessive tax. I used to work in a very regulated environment, and there was a time in the country that people were fined billion, I think it was trillions. Why? Because somebody did not do due diligence about the data captured within the organization or the processes that have happened within the organization. There was nobody tracking to make sure that regulatory requirements were being met. So it's difficult to track regulatory requirements even without data. So I want somebody to start thinking, what regulatory requirements do I have in my office? Do we have relevant information to track it? Do we know what's going on, right? Are we able to improve? It also helps us to improve our operations by saving costs and maximizing profit. It will help us improve our operations by saving costs and maximizing profit. I'm a cake person. I don't know how many cake people are here, right? But business owners generally, when you are able to track your expense on a regular basis, you're able to know, oh, what do I buy the most? What am I buying behind the house that I could have bought in bulk in the market? What am I using more often nowadays, right? Your information, the information you're tracking as a business helps you to be on track and do these things very well, right? It helps you to improve your staff, even your staff satisfaction in the organization, because when you are able to track things properly, in the organization, you are able to do things better. And when you're able to do things better, your staff begin to feel that there's equity and there's fairness and justice, because we are working with facts. There's no room for preferences or any form of injustice, because there are facts to guide things from happening. Thank you so much for the engagements. Also, fraud management. Fraud management is effective when you have data properly planned and organized. Even planning within your organization, you're able to plan better and you're able to achieve your business goals. So data is priceless. It's an asset to any organization. Every form of information collected from a customer is priceless and must be managed and tracked. All right. So that is what data will do for you in your organization. Data disciplines. Now, when we talk about data, somebody called me this morning and said, Lola, I've been seeing you post about data. How can I participate? I really want to go into data analysis. And I said to her, wait, let's think about this. There's so many things you can do. Being a data analyst is not the only thing you can do. Yes, it's a basic skill that everybody in the data space should have, but it's not everything, right? In the data space, we have lots of disciplines. When I was researching, I saw about over 20 disciplines, and I feel that they weren't conclusive, but I just wanted to share this view. That when we look at input and planning within an organization, right, you have your data entry professionals. You have some people who focus on data entry. They're experts in data entry. They know how to design the forms to make sure that things are perfect. You have data entry professionals. You have data architects who are into the architecture of, please, we will have questions and answers later. Please, let's put our questions together, right? So we have data architects, we have the data architecture, which has to do with designing the whole framework of how data will flow. Imagine a huge organization that has so many parts. You can't imagine how much of data that is flowing within that organization, and it's important that you are able to control those, right? You have data engineering, which is processing of the data that is coming in, and integration, data integration from different sources, because sometimes you have data coming from different sources and you need to force them to come together into a particular format, right? Then you have data governance, policies, subject matter experts in different areas. It's data governance is cross-functional in nature. You have people of different job functions coming together to decide policies that make sure that data is in good shape. Okay, now those are also very important in planning and the quality assurance within data space. In fact, it is believed that there cannot be data quality in an organization without data governance. That data governance must exist at least in some form or the other. And this I believe because even in my small cake business, I've seen data governance issues. So that is also important. And you have data management, right? Then let's just quickly go to processing. In processing, you have data modeling, mining, cleansing, data warehousing, you have data analysis. I believe data analysis is like a bedrock of the sort, because in your analysis, you will see errors, you see different things, and it makes these things very obvious. Like I said earlier, I started my career as a data analyst and I rounded up as a data management professional. Okay, so also you have artificial intelligence, predictive analytics, statistical analysis, business intelligence, data visualization. I'm sure some of us have heard about Power BI. Power BI is a business intelligence tool of the sort that also helps you with data visualization. Okay, so that is just different disciplines. So after today, I'm expecting that you would want to check which of these ways would you like to participate. If you're a subject matter expert, I really believe that you shouldn't just jump into analysis. You should really sit back and say, in which of this space can my participation really be great? Because we need more subject matter experts coming into the data space to improve the quality of solutions that we have, right? So I hope with what I have shared about the data disciplines, you are able to see some more about how you may want to play in the data space, right? Please leave some feedback in the chat so that I know that we're engaging. Yeah, the salary of a data analyst. So I had to get this out of Google and check some of this out. In Nigeria, entry-level data analysts like from 80K upwards, mid-level from 200, senior level, as far as you want to bid, actually, as far as you want to bid. As far as you want to be. The quality of solutions you have will make you determine what you want, right? So aim for the skies. These are just indicators. This is nothing like what it is. And I would say that if you have subject matter expertise in anything, you really want to come into the data space. You really want to step back in your organization and say, what are the biggest problems in these organizations? I can solve them. With my data, with my knowledge of the business, I just need to get some data skills and get in line and help the organization solve the problem. When I was working in the corporate, one of the things I saw was that the lack of data literacy, it was creating problems in improving processes, right? So like I said, every organization, what are the opportunities? Every organization or business has data quality problems. Every organization. I remember when I did my national registration. My national registration had issues because my registration at the bank, which was used to feed the national data bank, had wrong information. So you can imagine how much wrong information is sitting within the government space itself because of data entry problems, right? So you have that existing everywhere. You have also business problems that can be solved with data. You have business problems. Yes, giggle. Yeah, so you have business problems that can be solved with data. Everybody's asking questions. Some of these questions, when you hear them, can you step back and say, what data set can be used to solve this problem? What data set can be used to solve this problem? In your team right now, you need somebody that can analyze better. Every team needs an analyst. Every team needs a data analyst, right? Every team needs a a subject matter expert. So if you've done anything for the past 15 years, you should be an expert. You should be an expert in that subject right now. Can you use that knowledge, that expertise to now get some data skills to become, I don't even have the word. Yeah, this is time, right? An SME, as an SME, that is a small business owner, you need a data consultant. You need data skills. You can't afford to be looking at your numbers and not know what they are saying. So if you're an SME, if you have the skills to provide service to the SMEs, you are needed right now, because SMEs are under the weight of huge data that they don't know what to do with, right? And there's huge data literacy gaps. If you want to train, if you want to become a trainer, like me, I like training, I like sharing knowledge. If you want to be a trainer, that is also an opportunity within the data space. So many organizations need to catch up with this, because we are not digital natives. We are immigrants. We're digital immigrants. If you're my age, you're a digital immigrant. And even those that are supposed to be digital natives, most of them just know how to use digital devices for playing games and doing other things other than real problem solving. So we will always have the gap, the literacy gap, and we need people to fill it up. So these are opportunities for you. If you decide today that you want to get better, you want to add data skills to whatever you know to become the next solution bank. All right? So data is for you. It's for you as a business owner. It's for you as a business owner to sponsor. So if you have a business here, I want to tell you that you should go back to your business and say, are we data driven? I need to invest here. We need to invest in our data. We need to ensure that we start seeing what's happening in this organization. What you're getting in the bank may not continue flowing in the next 20 years. In fact, in the next 5 years, it may just stop, because you are not tracking. And what you are not tracking, you cannot improve. What you are not tracking, you will lose very soon. All right. And as a business leader, you need to start rethinking how you're going to regroup your teams, how you're going to reorganize what happens within your team, how you're going to change your strategy so that your strategy can show what is happening. Your strategy can be digitalized, because a lot of our strategies are very analog in nature. And if they're analog, you can't get the data out so easily. And as a staff, it's time for you to get that promotion. It's time for you to come with those skills that really solves the problem. Every boss loves a problem solver. And as a human, it's time for you to be able to look at your statement of account and make some insights out of your statement of account. It's time to get some insights out of your statement of accounts, out of your life as a whole. I believe that digital skills and data your data analysis skills will help you to be a better critical thinker, analytical thinker, creative person. It will do all of that for you. And if you're a parent, you want your child to get on track. And so we have different offerings because we believe that it is important for you. Thank you, David Afaflo. He says data is very important. Yes. So we have different offerings for you, and that's why we're having this webinar. First, to remove this gap, knowledge gap, we need to remove it. Then next, we want to say, see, we have introduction to data, a course, introduction to data analysis. We just finished a batch with young 10 to 16-year-olds. And it was amazing what they were able to do within a few weeks of taking them through things. Of course, it got to a point, some of them were like, wow, this is a lot of work, but at the end of the day, we were able to change how they think. So if you're a parent here, you want to get your children on our Young Data Genius track. We also have the professional track for your data analysis, where you can come and get the introduction to data analysis. What will the introduction to data analysis do for you? It will give you the basic skills that you need to begin the journey into your data analysis, your data journey, right? Into becoming data driven. So you want to take up that offer of our data analytical skill training. Then we also have customized data literacy training. We have customized data literacy training for your teams. So if you want us to package a training and come into your space and train your staff, we are here for you. We're here to help you get that done. You know, the importance of data literacy is often underestimated. I have a store, like I said, and I like to make examples of my store because it was my own experiment and it's still my own experiment. When you tell people this is the form, start collecting data in this form, it doesn't mean you're going to get that information right, because the people who are capturing the data needs to be trained. They need to know the importance of what they are capturing and why they must do it the way you have told them to do it. It's just the way you need to enforce every process. So your data literacy training is important so that your business, your team knows what they are doing and why they are doing it. We also have advisory skills for your organization and your business data. So like someone is asking, what does it take to set up a data collection system? Any training for this on small businesses? That is why we are here. That is why we are here. So we're going to share a form. We're going to put a form in the chat so that if you want us to engage on any of these tracks, the introduction to data analysis, you want to